before you buy that machine, the thing that makes you clench your sphincter and then curl your toes, whatever you want to say, is if I put in this investment, is anyone going to actually buy my stuff? Hey, this is Gene from Suntour. Thanks again for tuning in. Or if this is your first time, welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel about freeze drying, the business, the equipment, the science, that sort of stuff. So what is the number one fear of everyone who is starting up a business? Is anyone going to buy my product? I mean, you can buy a freeze dryer, you can buy 10 of them. You could buy a small one, you could buy a commercial machine. There's thousands of different products probably that you can make in a freeze dryer. But if you don't sell them, your business goes nowhere. It all fails if you have no sales. And I thought that was a nice rhyme. It all fails if you have no sales. Maybe that's going to become a new mantra of mine. Or is it marketing that you need? Or do you want to make the product and leave it to other people to market and sell? It's called wholesaling, a very viable business model. But if you're going to do it yourself, if you're going to market your own product, you have to ask yourself a very good question, and it's a question that people ask me all the time, and I think it's the most relevant question maybe of all, and that is, well, which product is the best product for me to freeze dry? So in this video, I am going to give you some really good ways that you can determine that very thing. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start out with a little story, right? So some of you have probably heard some of this story. In about 2012 or so, I was kind of freshly out of my engineering degree program. I was 40-something at the time. And I got laid off from an engineering company, big engineering firm. It's a lumpy business, right? When you have work to do, they want you to work for them. And when they don't, they lay you off. So it was springtime. I said, hey, I've got this time on my hands, getting unemployment. I'm probably going to go back to work for them. So what should I do with my time? I said, hey, I'm going to start a business. So at the time, I had recently made for myself this hand hoe that was made with a really sharp kitchen knife. I'd cut the blade off the sharp kitchen knife. Maybe got in a little trouble for that, but that's another story. I put it on a big shaft and made a handle for myself, and I took it out to the garden and started shaving the weeds in my garden. It was like butter. It was a great little tool. I was just like, oh my God, this thing is so good. Well, there was my first indication. Look, I took this tool and used it for myself. I mean, the whole thing, I made it for myself, and it really was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. I'm like, maybe I should sell this. I had 3 different ways that I thought would be good to sell it. I sold it online, and I started up a little booth in the farmer's market, and then I got a little TV spot. I did a little bit of PR. There was a local TV station that was a newscast that was doing a spot on local entrepreneurs. So I got on that, and you know what? I got this little flurry of sales, right? Now, this wasn't a cheap thing, right? This is a $50 handheld hoe, for a garden tool that's pretty expensive. It's kind of high end, maybe really high end. And I got these sales, and it was really heady. I set up my booth at the farmer's market. It was basically an open air table. I just had like a card table with a cloth on it, and I had maybe half a dozen of these Ivanhoes on it. And I said, all right, let's see if I sell any of these, right, for $50 a piece. And I sold 2 of them, right? And when I got home, Thon said, so how many relatives do you have in town anyway? Ouch, right? So anyway, and I kept doing it at the farmer's market. The little flurry of sales that I got online because of the TV spot and whatnot, it was nice. It was really exciting, but they went away real quick. So I sold a couple at the farmer's market, and so I decided I'm going to keep doing it. So something interesting happened at the farmer's market. I mean, it's totally natural, but it really kind of took me by surprise. because it was something new I was doing. So, well, quite a number of things happened. First off, I just loved my time selling stuff at the farmer's market. Part of it's just the other vendors, right? The other vendors, we were all kind of in it together. We all had our thing that we were selling. The Vancouver, Washington, the Vancouver farmers market was this beautiful market with many, I think there was like 200 vendors, 10,000 people would walk the market every weekend. But it was, at least a third of it was all artisan crafts, right? Really high-end stuff. It was all curated. And so just, being there with all the other vendors, making their stuff and selling it was just like this happy atmosphere. And the people who came to buy stuff at the farmer's market, they were also in very good mood. So that was really great. But it was actually the people who came to buy stuff at the farmer's market that made it really special. The customers, right? I really enjoyed the time that I had interacting with the customers. They come up and say, wow, this is really nice. You do great work. Other ones would come up and say, wow, this looks really nice. I can imagine using this. And I would tell them my little story, and then they would buy it. Now, when somebody comes, you just made this thing by hand, the work of your own hands, somebody comes and buys it, right, for a premium price. That fans this inner flame that you've got, right? This is exciting stuff. This is like a spiritual fuel. It's a really, really good feeling when you put something of value out there and people respond. Right now, my spiritual fuel is when you give me a like and a subscribe and maybe comment on my videos or share or something like that. So if you do that, please, thank you. But I got immediate feedback from these customers at this farmer market. They would have reactions that were nuanced, right? So if somebody said, wow, you do really nice work, I really appreciate what you do. You could tell kind of right away that they're being nice and they're being genuine, but it's the ones who actually slapped their cash down on the barrel in exchange for my thing that was the real compliment, right? They meant it. And they backed it up with their money. So I got immediate feedback. I could tell, I expanded from Ivanhoe into other products to little hand spades and stuff. And over time, the customers, tell them the story about how I made this hoe with a kitchen knife that I cut up. I would tell them the story, and then they would say, well, geez, this blade is fantastic. Where do you get this knife? And I said, well, I'll bring some next week. If you want some, come on by. I'll sell you some. I actually started then getting feedback from my customers who pointed me at the things that they really wanted. Now we're getting to the crux, right, of what I was talking about before. How do you know somebody's going to buy your product, or how do you know that you're making the right stuff? Your customers will tell you. You got to get out in front of them, right? That's what this whole video is going to be about. And I'm telling you a really good method. So I'm going to give you lots of reasons. So I was able to pivot my business based on what the customers asking for and how they were reacting to the stuff I was selling. Some stuff didn't sell very well. I no longer made it. It's a pain in the butt to make stuff. I was doing this after hours, right? I was out in the shop, in the garage until 10 o'clock at night on the weekdays, making this stuff so I could sell it on the weekends. All right, so I'm not going to spend my time spinning my wheels making stuff people don't want. Besides which, they just stayed in inventory. The stuff that was constantly out of stock is the stuff that I had to make. So could I have made a business out of this hobby? Absolutely, you bet. The reason that I didn't stick with it is because I moved. I moved from Vancouver, Washington to Kentucky, where I am now. And, they don't have any good farmers markets around here, at least none that I found. So anyway, why do I tell this story? I tell this story because setting up, making something by hand, by yourself, and then taking it to an open air market, like a farmer's market, it's a great method to determine if you're making and selling the right product. And they will also your customers will give you feedback on the price. You can tell when a customer wants your product, but they think it's too expensive because they're like, geez, okay, I'll think about it, right? They may or not come back. If the ones that come back, they've said, okay, I actually think that your product is worth more than my dollars, however many you want. So we'll help you determine the right price. And sometimes your price is too low. I had a chef come to my booth and he was playing with really later, it was like the first iteration of the knives where I was actually making the blades, making the steel, stamping my company name into it, and having him heat treated. I would grind it myself, cut it, everything. It was all done by me, by hand. Made these beautiful wooden handles. It's a great knife. I mean, I still have one, and I love it. It's the one I use all the time. But the chef said, look, this is a great knife. It's so light and flexible. He was like twirling it in his fingers. It's a chef knife, right? It's like an 11-inch chef knife. And he's like, but no chef is going to buy this knife. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you said it's great. He goes, I know, but it's only $75. No chef is even going to look at it unless it's over $100. I'm like, oh. And that fit because I had already been encouraged at home to raise my prices on the Ivanhoe and knives and the other kitchen knives I was making. And it turned out that when I raised the price, sales went up. I don't mean the dollar point. I mean the number of units that I sold. Counterintuitive, right? Turns out when people see too low of a price, they think something's wrong with it. So that's part of setting the right price. And if you're in a farmer's market and you're selling your product, making those sales and talking to your customers, that's going to keep this fire lit inside of you. It's really important that you do that. And it teaches you so much more about business. If you are just starting out on business the first time, which is what I was doing at that time, the things that you learn just from making stuff and selling it at the farmer's market, because you have to wear all the hats. All the hats. You have to set up your business. You have to get insurance. You have to make the product. You have to get the right machinery. You got to find the materials. You have to build relationships with people who supply you with the materials or the machines. You have to figure out where and when you're going to sell your product. You have to figure out the stories to sell all this product. It's a lot of stuff, right? Marketing online, all this sorts of stuff, right? So it teaches you a lot about doing business. So if you are just starting out, I highly recommend that you go to a farmer's market. And it also allows you to really develop and refine your story. Marketing is about telling stories, right? If you keep changing your story a little bit, just refining it, figuring out how to tell your story about your product or your line of products, if you do it over and over and over again, you will get at it. You'll get much better at it much faster than if you just try to simply sit down and try to create the master story from beginning to end. It'll take you a lot longer and it won't be as good as if you just go and repeat in front of customers and judge their reactions. It also is going to provide you cash. This is cash that you can invest back into your business to buy more equipment, to get more capabilities. And it's also going to build up a business history. This is really important. It's going to get you a business credit rating so that when you go to finance that equipment, maybe it's a $100,000 piece of equipment, it's going to be something that the equipment finance company, whoever that is, your bank or a company that specializes in it, they're going to look at that business history and say, okay, I can see where it says there's a very good chance you're going to repay me the money, which is the most thing they're concerned about. It also just forces you to look at the whole money side of the equation. How do I price this? How much does it cost? Am I making money at this? Am I losing money at this? What kind of volume do I need to do in order to make a living at this? It makes you look at the money side of the business. A lot of people say, oh, geez, I could make that better. And you can make that better. But unless you can make money at making it better, it's going to remain a hobby. It also will slap you right across the face with what the importance of production. It's going to slap you in the face about the importance of production. You may have heard me tell this story before. I tell it all the time. When I was making these tools, I made them at night, sold them on weekends. There were several times when I needed to shut down my production because I need to modify how I was making something so I could make it better, usually better quality, faster, better and faster usually, because that's really what mattered. I need to make more of them, and I always need to improve my quality. I needed to shut down my production in order to improve my production. But I only ever really had enough inventory for the sale on that weekend. Because look, I'm just doing this after hours. So you see the catch-22. What am I going to sell if I shut down my production? So every time that I bit the bullet and shut down my production and made the changes, and there were some really good ones that I made, was such a benefit later. It was such a good benefit that I was always so glad that I did it. But it was such an anguishing decision to make at the time, because I gotta sell stuff at the farmer's market this weekend. If you are trying to fulfill a contract that a customer made with you, you got somebody that came by and said, "Hey, I've got 17 stores. I'd love to put your stuff on my shelf. Let's do a supply deal." And if you suddenly find that you can't do it because your machine's down, or because you need to make some changes, or maybe you're switching buildings, or you name it. There's all kinds of reasons why you'd be shutting down your production. You will feel the pain when you can't deliver that stuff. You can't sell what you don't have. Well, salesmen try that and they always get burned by it, right? You can't sell what you don't make, or what somebody doesn't make for you. You can't sell what you don't have. So now why do I bring this up? Because look, when I was making these knives, I couldn't find anyone in the country to make the steel, this really high grade of stainless steel, thin enough to make the blade that I wanted. After, I don't know, like 3 months of searching, I found one company that would actually buy the source material and cut it into sheets. I mean, I could buy it from the United States stainless steel or something like that, but they wanted to sell me a 10,000 pound roll, right? Well, you can't deliver that to my driveway. So I found one company that would do it. Almost. I mean, it was almost as thin as I wanted it, but it's close enough. But it turns out that you can't make stuff if you can't get the stuff to make. So you need to treat your vendors well, right? You've got suppliers. They're supplying you packaging material, or stuff to freeze dry, or machines, or even labor. They're supplying you stuff. You got to be nice to them, right? They're in business too. They're trying to make their ends meet. Don't deal with pigs, right? Just only deal with good people that you can trust, or that are professional, and treat them well, because you are going to rely on them. If you suddenly lose your source material because you're a jerk to your supplier, then you kind of deserve to lose that contract with that company because you can't supply it. It's going to hurt, but if you're a jerk to people, you deserve to hurt, and just keep that in mind. So I really champion this thing about setting up the farmer's market, because it's a really low price to entry, right? I mean, it costs you what, $25 a day or a weekend or whatever for the stall, another $150 for this tent that you set up and your tables. The expense is tiny. The time burden, now that is a litmus test, right? So the expense is small, but maybe if you buy a freeze dryer, maybe you don't consider that to be a small expense. But are you willing to put in the time and the effort to make this business run? And if you're not willing to put in the time and effort to make a farmer's market business run, then you probably ought to be looking for a different way to make money. Maybe it's a different kind of business or whatever, because literally that's the minimum amount of work. To be in business, you have to do the work. Nothing of value comes for free. You want to succeed? Try, or go watch TV. Put in the work and give it some time. It takes years really to build up a good book of business. You're always starting at the ugly duckling phase, Right? This is, the fable, right? Where the ugly duckling turns into the beautiful swan, where it takes time for it to turn into the beautiful swan. And while you are an ugly duckling, meaning you're in the ugly duckling phase where you say, I'm not good at this, I don't know how to do marketing, I just can't figure out how to do this production, my packaging's never working right, I'm not good at design, I don't want to appear on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. That's the ugly duckling phase. You're not good at it. That's a phase, right? That's the I'm building a skill phase. You will get better over time, and it will get better over time. So just because something doesn't like succeed wildly and is easy right from the get-go does not mean it's not a good business. It's just the ugly duckling phase. So give it some time. Prove your business case to yourself and to your spouse. Maybe more importantly, to your spouse. Make some money. Make some money. And then wash, rinse, repeat. Right? Wash, rinse, repeat. And then you can start to reinvest. Right? You make some money, you reinvest, you buy more equipment, you get a packaging line, you hire somebody to do some marketing for you, whatever. And eventually, maybe you'll start to get to the point where you need to get some really big, expensive machines. And if you want to know how much money you can make with that, just watch this video. And for now, thanks for tuning in. That's all we've got for today.